Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the press and the state of Minnesota. Thank you for being here today. I'd like to announce that I'm suing the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the United States Department of Justice. Here is the opening line of our lawsuit. Minnesota brings this lawsuit to stop President Trump and his administration from bullying vulnerable children in this state. How did we get here? You might wonder. In January and February, President Trump issued a series of executive orders targeting transgender people. One in particular banned transgender girls and women from participating on sports teams with other girls and women. On February 20th, I issued a formal legal opinion saying that the executive order does not override Minnesota's protections against discrimination. In fact, complying with the sports executive order from the president would violate Minnesota Human Rights Act. That opinion is legally binding in Minnesota unless a court of law says otherwise. On February 25th of this year, our office got this letter from the Department of Justice stating that it would sue us if we didn't comply with the executive order. We got another letter right here, April 8th, dated April 8th, and in this April 8th letter and in an April 16th press conference, the Department of Justice threatened to withhold funds from Minnesota and, quote, seek judicial resolution, unquote. I'm not going to sit around waiting for the Trump administration to sue Minnesota. Today, Minnesota is suing him and his administration because we will not participate in this shameful bullying. We will not participate for two reasons. One, they're wrong about the law, both federal and state law. Two, we will not let a small group of vulnerable children who are only trying to be healthy and to live their lives be demonized. Many of their parents are here today, and I thank them for their presence. The bottom line is, in our Minnesota, everyone is included in the circle of our compassion, and no one is out of our circle of protection. The Trump administration doesn't see it that way. They've wrongfully claimed that gender identity is false. They've tried to cut off life-saving access to gender-affirming care, and we sued them about that too. They're trying to remove trans kids from public life and from the things that let kids be kids. And now they're coming after Minnesota, threatening to cut off our federal funding unless we turn our backs on our kids. They want to make all of us pay because we welcome all children and want them to be their whole selves. These are bullying tactics, plain and simple. And I've been around my share of bullies in my life, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can't give them an inch. The legal claims in our lawsuit are straightforward and simple. Number one, the executive action is invalid because the Trump administration is trying to use the powers that the Constitution reserves to the Congress. Number two, Title IX of the federal law explicitly prohibits discrimination based on sex. The administration is wrong about the law. Three, the executive action violates the Administrative Procedures Act. And four, the administration is violating the 10th Amendment, which protects state sovereignty by trying to coerce Minnesota to follow its discriminatory policy. And that's not how it works. That's not how the law works, that's not how the Constitution works, and that's not how democracy works. Trump's burning desire to destroy trans kids and punish us for helping them live and thrive isn't just a violation of law, it's a violation of Minnesota values, and we're not going to sell out trans kids or any vulnerable community just to stay in the good graces of a lawless administration. Sometimes countries face moments like this, faced with a leader bent on destroying entire communities and instilling fear in those communities that protect them. The lessons of history tell us a leader like that doesn't stop at one community. After he's destroyed one, he goes on to another and another and another. These are the moments when you have to say, no, we're in that moment right now in America, and I have the power to say no, and I'm saying no. Let me say that I'm grateful to be here with a number of people who have been standing up valiantly for all Minnesotans. Let me say thank you to Representative Lee Kozlowski, Representative Breon Curran, Representative Lee Fininky, who you're going to hear from next, Kat Ron from Out Front, Minnesota, Kit Anderson, who's the mother of a transgender child. I want to thank Liz Kramer, who's our Solicitor General, and Pete Farrell, who's the Assistant Solicitor General, both of whom have amazing legal acumen. And Hannah Edwards, I want to thank Hannah Edwards, Dan Edwards, parents. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you. And I want to also thank, Dr. Leonard Smith, we're going to hear from in a moment. Gretchen Yuen, where is she? Thank you, Gretchen. And we're going to hear from the Yuen family in a moment. And Moria Allen. Did I get that right? Yep, thank you. And I got to talk to my staff about handwriting. Anyway, with no further delay, let me ask Representative Lee Fininky to come to the microphone. Excuse me. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Fininky. I use she, her pronouns. I represent District 66A in the Minnesota House of Representatives. It's an honor to stand before you for this moment today. I want to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to Attorney General Keith Ellison and his remarkable team for taking this crucial action. Your unwavering support for queer and trans rights has been a beacon of hope, and we as a community are forever grateful. You heard the Attorney General explain the lawsuit, but in my community, this lawsuit and the last one, they are not about sports, they are not about health care, they are just about the fundamental human right to choose our own lives. This is about freedom, it is about our freedom, but it is also about everyone else's freedom in this country. We know that the Trump administration's attacks on trans and non-binary and two-spirit people are part of a much larger, much more insidious agenda. Whether it's targeting immigrant families, the cruel deportation of our neighbors to foreign prisons, or the systematic erasure of vulnerable trans children from their social fabric. We recognize that this is not just a threat to a single community. This is a broader, more dangerous assault on liberty. The campaign to strip away rights, to suppress individual freedoms, and to obliterate the legal recognition of those deemed unwanted echoes the authoritarianism of the 20th century. History shows us that such attempts can only be stopped by the collective power of those who cherish freedom, justice, and love. And I'm proud to stand among all of you, such folks, today. It is this path, the path of love, freedom, and inclusion, that Minnesota has chosen now and will always choose. Minnesota was the first state to protect transgender people in its Human Rights Act in 1993. Today we mark another critical milestone in our tireless fight to safeguard the rights of all Minnesotans. So let me be clear. To Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and all those who stand behind this campaign of trans eradication, trans, non-binary, and two-spirit people have always existed. We will always exist across every culture, every continent, all through history. Trans people have been here, and we will continue to be here. No law, no policy, no hate-fueled campaign will ever change that. So I'm asking you to just please stop trying. To those of you in that world who still are capable of hearing from those of us outside of it, understand this. All that we ask is to be left in peace, to live in love, and without fear. That is not too much for any person to ask. And to all the trans folks out there, and to the parents of trans children everywhere, know this: you are loved, you are worthy, and you belong. Every day we are fighting for your safety, for your dignity, and for your right to exist freely in the world. Your identity is valid. Your joy is revolutionary. Your future is precious, and it is worth fighting for. We, trans people, do not need anyone's permission to exist. It does not matter what anyone says, whether it's the president or Pam Bondi or anyone else in your life. To love, to thrive, to be our authentic selves, this is our fundamental right, and it is the legacy passed to us by our ancestors. We've always been here. We are not going to change. We are not going anywhere. No law, no policy, no hateful campaign or rhetoric will ever change that. While the Trump administration chooses darkness, destruction, Minnesota is choosing a different path. A path of inclusion, a path of dignity, a path of compassion. Here we do not bend to cruelty. We do not bow to bullying or bigotry. We lead with love and follow the law. We will continue to build a state that honors and affirms the lives of all who call it home. We have chosen love, and we have chosen justice, and we will continue to choose freedom now and always. And with that, I will introduce Dr. Kelsey Leonard-Smith.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kelsey Leonard-Smith. I'm the Director of Gender Care at Family Tree Clinic in Minneapolis, as well as an Assistant Professor of Family Medicine and Community Health at the University of Minnesota Medical School. Though my work directly informs these remarks, I'm speaking on my own behalf today. Caring for transgender youth over the past decade has been the very best part of my job. It's truly a gift to work with young people who have put such care into thoughtful self-reflection. Along with their families, they've taught me so much about what it means to be a human being. Besides being a doctor, I'm also a mom to 3 wonderful kids, and like many of my fellow parents, the time comes along when some days a week my kids are calling me coach instead of mama. I've seen firsthand, as a kid who played sports on teams all through college, a parent, a coach, and a family doctor to children of all backgrounds, that youth sports can be so, so good for kids. Besides, transgender kids are no different. And unfortunately, in particular, many of the transgender girls and young women I care for have left sports behind long before they get into my office. I see so many kids who loved soccer and softball in elementary school, only to quit by early adolescence. Just the time in life when teamwork, leadership skills, and finding joy in moving your body are so beneficial. And while we all like winning, that's not really what sports are about when you're a kid. They're about creating space for all kids to build habits for a healthy lifetime of activity. Transgender girls and women are already dramatically underrepresented in sports. Despite making a very small percentage of the population, they're an even tinier minority of our athletes. In fact, fear of exclusion drives many gender-diverse youth away from structured physical activity. This is a tragedy when youth sports should always be about finding ways to pull more kids in. Shutting out trans girls helps no one, and it is profoundly harmful to those it excludes. On the surface, it removes opportunities for physical activity, for fitness, for belonging, but on a more fundamental level, it says to trans youth, we do not believe you. You are not real. And it is hard to imagine a more damaging message to send to children. Everyone I know who cares for kids these days and teens is worried. We see the levels of anxiety and stress compounded by that uncontrollably long fingers of cyberbullying. But now it's not just classmates and the small-minded adults in their communities. My patients are being bullied by the President of the United States. It's beyond shocking. The negative effects of bullying into adulthood are well studied, and I fear for the long-term harm we will see reverberate across the lifetimes of transgender youth being targeted by bullies in the highest levels of government. I always used to brag about how my trans patients and their families would cry tears of joy in my office, something that happens, less when I'm just like fussing around with blood pressure in a late middle-aged crowd. But I've really come to think of my exam room as this place of profound belonging. Now my patients are so exhausted. Many drive all day or overnight from halfway across the country, refugees desperate to keep hold of essential healthcare services. And now they're just trying to survive when they're meant to thrive. States across the country are attempting to erase trans people from the fabric of daily life, barring access to healthcare, sports teams, bathrooms, and even something as essential as their own names. Research has already found the risk of suicide attempts is increasing for transgender youth in these states. These issues truly are life or death. But you cannot erase an entire community of people who have always existed. And here in Minnesota, we have sent a powerful, consistent, positive message to transgender youth. You belong here. And as a mom and a coach and a physician who has had the privilege of caring for trans youth, I want to say that again. You belong here. You belong in your school, in your community, in your doctor's office, and on the field, on the court, and in the pool. You deserve to grow and thrive as your full, authentic self. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the one.
My name is Hao Wen, and I'm the father of a trans child. I want to really thank the work of the people in this room, Representative Lee Fininky, and the leadership of Attorney General Keith Ellison. You know, every child is a blessing, and every child deserves love, peace, and protection. And all kids deserve an environment, regardless of who they are, to thrive and to grow. And as a parent, I believe that those values are non-negotiable. And as a father, in particular to a beautiful trans child, I understood that we would have a hard go at it. That along the way, there might be bumps and bullies that we would have to stand up to. But never in my wildest imagination and dreams did I think that the bully that we would have to stand up to would be the President of the United States and his administration. But I want to be clear, it doesn't matter who the bully is or how powerful they are or who's denying my child their identity and promoting violence upon them and our community. I want to be clear that President Donald Trump, that in Minnesota, you will never, not now, not ever, be allowed to harm Minnesota's trans kids. Not ever. Because as adults, children rely on us to protect them, to guide them, and to prevent needless harm that may come their way. Now, in my heart of hearts, I know, President Donald Trump, you're not afraid of trans kids. You're not afraid of trans people. You're a rich and powerful man. But you do what all bullies do. You stomp on the few in number, you villainize the innocent, and you create fear as a tool for distraction. But we in Minnesota are not distracted. We in Minnesota are not afraid. And I, as a father to a trans child, have the best job and the most sacred duty in the world, which is to protect my trans child. And so for me, that is a term and a value, Mr. President, that is non-negotiable. Thank you.
Let me thank everybody who addressed the community today. I want to also add that Jess Braverman from Gender Justice has joined us today. Jess, you here? Thank you for being here, Jess. Anybody else I missed? All right. Well, with that, we'll take a few questions.
Mr. Attorney General, will there be other states joining this, or is this solely a Minnesota legal action?
Well, we know that Maine is already in similar litigation, but they've threatened to sue us in particular. And so as for today, we're filing as Minnesota. But I do suspect there will be, we've already had a lot of other states join the gender affirming care lawsuit, and we'll see other states in a similar situation.
And what's your level of confidence in succeeding?
Very high. I think the law is certainly on our side here, and we're confident we're going to prevail.
Can you talk to us about the threatened grants that the three St. Paul schools,
Yeah.
the University of Minnesota, and specifically Metro State, we have like some knowledge of what those grants do, but I mean, these don't address
Right.
that issue, it seems to me.
Yeah, that is exactly right. I'm going to call on some of my legal buddies to come on forward if you want to help me out here. You are right. Those grants don't have to do with gender affirming care or trans issues, which is sort of like why this is irrational and arbitrary. It's just punishing Minnesota because we're upholding our Minnesota Human Rights Act. Simple as that. But I don't know, anything to add if you want?
I just think the letters
Come over
came
here.
from the letters came from the Department of Justice, and these are grants controlled by the Department of Justice, and I think that really explains it. They were things in their sole authority.
Is there any other federal funding beyond those that's being threatened?
Not that they've identified.
What's the total number of dollars that they actually threatening specific dollar amounts?
We have, so because the Department of Justice hasn't actually terminated any grants, it's unclear all the ones they could be talking about. We put some of the numbers in the complaint, but some of it is still a little bit vague from their letter.
Is the complaint, has it been filed in federal court?
Yes.
It has.
But they could withhold other money, right? I mean, not just DOJ grants?
Well, look, we're talking about an administration that has withheld grants for National Institute of Health and institutions in Minnesota that benefit from those, education-related grants, a wide range. Well, the second lawsuit that the Attorney General had to file had to do with the impoundment of $3 trillion worth of grant programs. So you are right in that it's hard to know exactly what they're going to attack. But yeah, they've tried to withhold multiple types of grants not rationally related to the issue that they say they're concerned about.
You must know Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
Have you?
I don't really have. Here's the thing. During my time, I have had no unpleasant interactions with the Attorney General. I can say that I think that she's wrong on the law, and I'm confident that we're going to prove it.
Dr. Leonard Smith, could you maybe address kind of what the administration is trying to talk about here, which is fairness in sports? You are the medical professional here, so can you talk to us about, there is clearly a difference between the aptitudes physically of boys or men and women at least. Can you kind of address where that kind of, develops and when it may be a concern and how among your patients that may present?
So on a fundamental level, trans girls are girls and trans women are women. And we divide sports in order to ensure opportunities for girls and women in sports. The science is pretty clear that trans girls and women, following the rules of all the different sports governing bodies around participation, don't share any type of unfair advantage. And what it really comes down to, ultimately, is that trans people are who they say they are, and they belong in the sports teams with other people who are like them. Girls and women should be able to play on girls and women's teams.
I have a question for Attorney General.
Sure.
In the April 16th press conference that you referenced, Bondi said they've been communicating with Minnesota. Can you give any more detail? Is it just through email? Did you have meetings, phone calls? Could you just tell us what those
We just said they said they were going to sue us. They gave us a certain amount of time that they said they were going to sue us in. And we said we'd get back to them with our answer within a certain amount of time. And we have.
Mr. Attorney General, ask the dad or the doctor, the young people that you've talked to, both of you mentioned that they, and I think representative, that they never believed they'd be bullied by the President of the United States. What are the kids' reactions to that? Are they aware that it's the President, and does that raise their anxiety level? Can you describe what are they saying?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think kids are very aware of their surroundings, especially our child. They hear it on the news. They hear it from the things that bleed in through other parents and their kids at schools. They are always, on edge about who they are, if they're safe where they are, or who might be the so-called good guy or bad guy. That's how kids understand. Our president should never be a bad guy in terms of a kid's perspective. Our president should never look at a president as the leader of the free world and say, I'm afraid of that person, and what can that person do to me? So absolutely, their awareness is heightened, and I think I worry for our child's well-being and health.
How old is your child?
10 years old.
Mr. Attorney General, you know, you've filed a lot of lawsuits against the Trump administration. This one's a little different in that it's getting out ahead of these grants possibly being withheld. Is this kind of a new chapter in that fight, that it's more of a preemptive move?
No, it's not a new thing. I mean, the reality is that he has already inflicted a concrete injury on our state by saying, we're going to sue you. All we've done is believe him. And so that's it. And so, yeah, I expect the pattern will be that, that we're going to continue to stand up for the rights of people. And let me just remind everybody, I have no desire to sue the president or the Trump administration. I do it because I believe he's clearly violating the rights of Minnesotans. I don't take any joy in this. In fact, I wish I didn't have to do it. But when he says that he's going to withhold money from Minnesota, punish all of Minnesota because we will not sell out trans kids, then I just take extreme umbrage to that, and I'm going to do what I can to protect the kids.
You said you're wrong on the law. Can you kind of give us what Title IX says as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, well, it's all written in the complaint. It's all written in the complaint. But Title IX said, well, does anybody want to step up? You guys want to help me out on this one?
Sure. No, please. Oh, you go. Oh.
Okay, Jess Braverman, everybody.
So Title IX prohibits sex discrimination in educational facilities that accept federal funding. Many courts have interpreted that as protecting transgender kids from discrimination, including courts in Wisconsin, courts in California. So courts, when they interpret Title IX, they see that as protecting transgender kids from discrimination. What we're seeing is that President Trump himself actually not liking that and trying to undo that by executive order, which is just not something that a president can do. He cannot interpret statutes differently from how the courts do, and so that's what he's trying to do, but he's wrong. The state of Minnesota is right. Title IX actually protects trans kids.
Do you think that'll hold up with this Supreme Court?
I believe it will. Under a few years back, a different makeup of the Supreme Court found that the employment discrimination provisions, the federal employment discrimination provisions, which are called Title VII, protects trans people. They prohibit discrimination based on sex. Title IX also prohibits discrimination based on sex. It should be interpreted the same way. So yes, I do believe that it will hold up.
Do you have the support of the governor and legislative leaders? Have you talked to anybody, any of them about it?
I'll let them speak for themselves, but I can tell you that we've been in communication and we've heard no objection.
This is not the most popular opinion. In the Pew Research Center last month said about 2/3.
I'm so glad you asked me that. And the reason is, we cannot be a state where we defend people's rights based on popularity in polls. We just can't do that. We've got to stand up for what's right, even if other people have a different opinion. And so just to answer your question, we're not looking at polls, we're looking at right and wrong, and we're looking out for our children who want to participate in life, and that's what we're doing.
But you also won your last election very narrowly. I mean, did this give you, and you've been mentioned as a potential candidate for other offices, does this give you pause? Why not wait for them to sue?
Well, I got to tell you, my election numbers are not on my mind. And the other thing is that, and if they ever creeped into my mind, I would banish them. I will never make a moral calculation based on my electoral prospects. Just won't do it. I will tell you, I would rather lose than sell out trans kids.
Attorney General Ellison, some Republicans are already tweeting that they're angry about taxpayer dollars paying for this. Are you concerned at all about time and cost of this lawsuit?
That's sort of in the same category as the last question. I mean, what's this? First of all, this is violating the rights of Minnesotans. if the Attorney General won't stand up for the rights of Minnesotans, who's supposed to? I mean, that's what we're doing. And no, we're not going to do. We're not going to assert the rights of Minnesotans based on a tabulation of dollars and cents. But this is well within the authority and I think obligation of our office to do.
No, on a practical level.
And I will say this. This is 85% of our budget or more is staff time. So essentially, we're devoting staff time to protecting people's constitutional rights.
Does this complicate staff time? That was kind of dovetailing into my question.
Yeah.
Because if the administration sues and you've already got a suit, does that essentially double the legal staffing that you have on this issue?
I don't think so, because they'd have to countersue on our lawsuit. But I'll say this, so it doesn't double the number of people that we need. But I'll simply say that we got some really awesome lawyers around here, and they're up to this challenge. So thank you. Well, I think that might be all we're going to do today. I'll hang around in case anybody wants to talk some more. But let me say thank you to all of you who have joined today. We're so grateful for your presence here, and we're going to do everything we can to protect Minnesota. Thank you very much.
I didn't get the spelling, of your name and
Sure.
the doctor.
And I want to be clear because I'm going to get in trouble. We just had a 10-year-old turn 11, and the child that you asked about is 8. So I'm not going to be punished for that. My name is Hao. That's H-A-O, and the last name is Nguyen. Thank you.
And you live in St. Paul, sir?
Minneapolis.
Did you have Dr. Leonard Smith's name?
Yes, my last name is Leonard, no space or hyphen, Smith.
And first name?
Kelsey, Kelsey.
And letters that go
All one. Lowercase s.
Did you want them to depart before we ask you other
Sure.
questions?
Yeah.
Because-
Okay, we'll catch up with y'all in a minute. Thank you. All right.
Okay, yeah, and then Title IX cases like Grimm, Whitaker, like, there's, cases even under Title IX. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney General, you've been under some scrutiny about the so-called secret recordings regarding some people who later became Feeding Our Future defendants.
Right.
Any regrets about using the language that this was stupid, piddly stuff that they might have been involved in and that agencies were trying to shut down?
Well, I was in a meeting with constituents who I was there in good faith. When I learned what the scope of the problem, what I will tell you is that sure, I mean it was far more than that. It was scamming, but at the end of the day, when I'm going to meet with people, and based on their representations to me, I'm going to respond in a natural way. But of course, these scammers, what they did was very serious. I'm glad they got prosecuted. I'm glad my office cooperated in their prosecution, and we stand ready to help see them held accountable.
In that conversation, you didn't seem fully informed about what was going on with the Feeding Our Future lawsuit that your office was involved in with the Department of Education. How much did you know about Feeding Our Future at that point?
So what I knew is that, so there are over 100 boards and commissions and agencies. We have excellent legal representation on all of them. Those people do a great job day in, day out. And so what I knew is that there was a dispute between what some emergency food vendors were claiming and what the Department of Education could verify and justifiable to cover. Our lawyers were representing the Department of Education. I knew that dispute was ongoing. I had heard about what some of the rulings and some of the court proceedings that had already occurred, but it wasn't until I got back and asked my staff what's going on that it became clear that this was a investigation that was federal authorities were involved with, and then when the FBI did the search warrants, and later on, in about a month after that meeting, the scope of the scam became much more clear.
And do you understand why people are concerned about the appearance of campaign contributions made later by
Well-
some of those same people?
Well, I think that let's make sure the facts get accurate. As far as I am aware, and I have been informed, the people who were in that meeting with me did not donate to my campaign. That's the information I have. If you have other information, I'd be happy to see it. I have asked this question, and my information is that the people in the meeting did not donate. And I also will say, I made it very clear when they said, "Oh, we can help your campaign." I did have a response. Did you hear what that was?
Yeah, that's not what you were there for.
Right. So it's very clear that when these people brought up my campaign, I shut it down immediately and told them I was here to listen to constituents, as I always do, and that it wasn't appropriate to bring up campaign matters.
So no quid pro quo.
Absolutely not. Never. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, about the Supreme Court decision yesterday not to consider the appeal in the concealed carry case.
Right.
Do you have your response to that?
Disappointed. I mean, look, we believe that the state of Minnesota has the right and the authority to pass laws to protect people from gun violence, and we were disappointed. We thought that was a good case for the Supreme Court to consider, but there are other cases of that nature, and so we'll see. This matter will be addressed eventually. I don't know if you all know what he's talking about, but the Supreme Court decided not to accept the Worth case, which is a case where the state of Minnesota said people between 18 and 21 can use guns under supervision. And the Eighth Circuit ruled against us on that one. And we appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided not to accept the case. So, but the issue's not going away.
Right, but that basically means now that if you're over the age of 18, you can apply for a permit to carry in Minnesota, right? I mean, there's nothing, at this point, there's no further remedy.
I think that's pretty much, yeah. Yes. I mean, I think we've come to the end of our ability to defend that statute.
Are you going to back some type of bill or something like that? Or are you going to try to go to the legislature to see if they'll take care of it?
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep on trying to protect Minnesotans from gun violence. We are taking action to do that. We've filed a lawsuit against a retailer that we believe was negligently selling guns to straw purchasers, and we filed a lawsuit against a gun manufacturer which I think markets their gun and made their gun so that switches could easily be applied and convert a semi-automatic into an automatic gun. So we're going to do everything we can to protect people from gun violence. We do respect and appreciate responsible gun owners and responsible gun retailers and manufacturers. But when they don't do that, we're going to hold them accountable.
I have a question about the young man that was arrested and is still detained in Sherburne County from the University of Minnesota as a graduate student.
Right.
I was at a hearing that he had last week, and there are no specific charges against him, but he continues to be held. I realize he's not an American citizen, but can you get involved in any way, and your thoughts on that case and where it can end up?
Well, I can tell you that my office does not have direct authority on immigration matters, but we do have an immigration committee within our office, and we think about these issues all the time. We try to give proper advice, and we try to make sure people know what their rights are. We go to community meetings, and we tell people what their rights are, and we're quite concerned, and we're monitoring the situation carefully. Anything else to be said? That's it, yeah. Well,
When are you going to decide whether you're going to run for re-election?
Oh, man, I mean, I've been pretty busy recently, and so I don't know, maybe sometime this summer, But I can tell you this, in that regard, I have never felt like I need to do something more than this moment. I feel like I am in the right position that I'm supposed to be in to protect the rights of Minnesotans. And so, as of today, I think I am going to be pursuing re-election, but I'm not making any announcements, although it sounds like I just did make one.
Final thing, President Trump's coming up on his first 100 days in office.
Yeah.
probably an unprecedented amount of legal action against him.
Right.
Does that really ultimately not surprise you? Did you kind of anticipate this?
Yes, I did. I can tell you that I knew that he was going to come into office way better prepared than he came in last time. Last time when he came in, I think he was probably surprised that he won. Last time, many of the appointments that he made were of people who were competent and had a great loyalty to the country, and as a result, helped curb some of his worst impulses, including, people like Mark Milley and others who were in his administration. Now he has selected people based on pure loyalty, and as a result, we see a lot of disturbing things. But you've asked me, did we expect this level of litigation? And yeah, I did, because I expected him to violate the law as he articulated or was articulated by others who support him in Project 2025. I mean, in these documents, it pretty much telegraphed which way we were going to be going. So with that, thanks everybody, and we appreciate y'all being here.